Some Democratic presidential candidates are targeting big companies on the campaign trail.
A new report by Axios called Big Brands Blasted on Campaign Trail details how some presidential hopefuls are using well-known corporations to highlight issues like minimum wage, jobs, and taxes. So for more on this, we are joined by Sara Fischer, a media reporter for Axios. Hey, thanks for joining us, Sara. So this is interesting. Why are candidates targeting some of these big companies? Because you sort of point out that these companies are in a weird position where it's very difficult for them to hit back and defend themselves.
That's exactly right. These companies want to say something. A lot of them are under a lot of pressure to take a stand on social issues or economic issues. But going after a presidential candidate is not the best place for them to be. For one, presidential candidates have to be quick on their feet. They have to react quickly. Oftentimes, they have to be very loud about it and sensational. Brands have to be more postured. Many of them are facing quarterly earnings where they need to speak to investors. And one wrong move could send sales just flat. So they need to be a lot more careful than the candidates are that are attacking them, which really gives these candidates an upper hand. And I think that's why they're going after these companies.
So give us some examples.
Yeah, so we worked with Signal Labs, which is a social analytics company, to take a look at which companies are driving a ton of buzz when a candidate tweets about them or posts about them on Facebook, et cetera. So one interesting takeaway, they're almost always legacy companies, which means that you're not going to see a presidential contender going after Everlane or Away suitcases. No, they want to go after the big guns, the people or the companies that employ a ton of people, the companies that touch a lot of people's lives. Two, they're really looking to go after companies that impact people's lives from a financial perspective. So they have targeted companies like Walmart or companies like Amazon, McDonald's, companies that have ties to minimum wage policies that they're duking out or policies around taxes. You see this a lot with the candidates like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who are really fighting for union representation and higher minimum wages. So those are the types of companies we've seen a lot of been targeted, as well as big tech companies. You know, the hot thing this candidate's cycle has been go after privacy, go after competition. So companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon are all in their crosshairs.
So is this a new tactic? Because I'm sort of thinking about like other hot button issues from previous campaigns, and I'm thinking about, you know, when we were very, very concerned about jobs going overseas. Yep. I'm sure big companies were targeted for shutting down their plants and moving them overseas. So is this something that we've seen before? Sometimes
targeted by the President of the United States himself. Harley Davidson and Carrier. He's been known to take to Twitter.
Where are those ties made?
It's definitely something that we've seen before. And you'll remember that President Trump started going really hard after companies on the 2016 campaign trail, even ones that he anticipated were going to face regulatory scrutiny in his administration. You'll recall he was speaking badly about AT&T prior to their Time Warner merger last campaign cycle. So yes, it's something that we've seen before. And hey, we've also seen it go wrong in some weird ways. You'll remember in 2008, Obama said his favorite drink was Honest Tea, and then John McCain and his campaign blasted it as being elitist, throwing Honest Tea in this very weird presidential fight. So this is something we've seen before, but I think what's different here...
What a scandal that was.
Huge scandal. Oh my gosh, the times have changed. But no, really, the big difference that we're seeing this cycle than we've seen in the past is that candidates are doing this really frequently. I mean, if you just scroll through a Twitter timeline, or if you just listen to the debates, Elizabeth Warren, the first thing she said in the last Democratic debate was going after big oil, big pharma, big tech. I mean, they have created adversaries out of corporations in a way that I don't think other candidates have done in the past. And I think that's strategic. And I also think that has to do with the fact that the Democratic campaign and all of its candidates have really moved very far left into some more progressive, maybe socialist type of policies. And so those types of policies often talk about creating equity amongst people. And in that case, it's creating equity amongst people and the corporations at which they are often working at or involved in.
So then what's the game plan for companies? How are they reacting to this?
Well, we're seeing some companies like Nike's a good example, Procter & Gamble, that really lean into social issues. They're the types of companies that are going to respond as fast as they can. But there's also been advice from some folks we've talked to that has said, hey, be careful about how quickly you dive in. The news cycle moves so quickly that if you try to respond to every issue that you're going to be targeted at, you're bound to lose some of them. So pick the issues that you know you have a very clear and well thought out stance on, whether that's LGBTQ issues or it could be minimum wage issues, and respond strategically to those. But don't try to go after every single attack because you're just bound to lose.
Sara Fischer, thank you.
Thank you so much.